Have you ever looked back at your life and thought, I've come too far to be dealing with this nonsense? Maybe you've spent decades building a life, raising kids, loving deeply, giving generously. And now, in this chapter of life, you crave peace, respect, honesty. And above all, you deserve to be surrounded by people who uplift you, not pull you down. But here's the hard truth. Just because we grow older doesn't mean everyone around us grows wiser. In fact, as we age, some people in our lives start showing their true colors. And if we're not paying attention, we might keep giving our time, trust, and energy to people who simply don't deserve it. And that, my friend, can quietly rob us of the peace we've worked so hard to earn. So today, I want to talk about something a little uncomfortable, but necessary. We're going to shine a light on 9 types of people that you should never trust or respect in your later years. Not out of bitterness, not because you're being harsh, but because your well-being matters. And protecting your emotional energy is not selfish. It's wise. Let's start with someone you've probably met more than once in your life, the two-faced charmer. You know the type. They greet you with warmth, maybe even call you dear, flatter you with a compliment, ask about your grandkids, and say all the right things when you're standing in front of them. But the moment you're out of sight, they're whispering things that make your stomach turn. Gossip, mockery, subtle betrayal. Now, years ago, you might have brushed it off. Maybe you thought, that's just how they are. Or, it's not worth the drama. But here's the thing. If someone talks about you behind your back, they're not harmless. They're dangerous. Because trust at our age is no longer a luxury. It's a boundary. And two-faced people break it with a smile. The key sign? Pay attention to how they speak about others when those people aren't around. That's the clearest window into how they speak about you. If their words are soaked in sarcasm or judgment when others aren't in the room, rest assured, you're not exempt. And if you feel a little sting of doubt every time you interact with them, don't ignore that gut feeling. That's your inner wisdom whispering. This person doesn't have your best interests at heart, and you don't owe them anything. Not your trust, not your loyalty, certainly not your respect. Now let's shift to a very different kind of person, but just as harmful, the social butterfly with a hollow core. On the surface, they seem delightful. Always smiling, always involved, always ready to join a potluck, drop a witty comment, or show up at every gathering. But when life gets real, when you need someone to talk to at 2 a.m., when you're facing a health scare, or even when you just feel lonely, they're nowhere to be found. You see, these are the people who love the spotlight of friendship, but they disappear the moment the lights dim. They like being seen as supportive, but don't want to actually be supportive. And while there's nothing wrong with enjoying social events or casual company, the danger comes when we mistake that surface-level connection for something deeper. Real friendship isn't measured by shared laughs, it's measured by shared burdens. If you found yourself emotionally investing in someone like this, always hoping they'll finally show up when it counts, take a step back. Ask yourself, do I always have to be the one reaching out? Does this person ever check in just to see how I'm really doing? If the answer is no, it's time to stop pouring into an empty cup. Because at this stage in life, you deserve connections that are mutual, not one-sided. People who will be there for you on your good days and your hard ones. Not just the ones who RSVP to your birthday party, but vanish when you need help picking up your prescription or simply need someone to talk to. And then, of course, there's the critic. Not the helpful kind, who gives gentle advice when you ask for it. No, I'm talking about the chronic fault finder. The person who always has something negative to say about your choices, your hobbies, your outfits, your stories. They say they're just being honest, but somehow, their honesty always manages to chip away at your confidence. Maybe it's the friend who constantly comments on how you're still driving at your age, or questions how you spend your retirement money. Or maybe it's even a family member who subtly implies that you're out of touch, that your opinions are outdated, or that you're too old to try new things. Let me tell you something important here. Your age doesn't make you less worthy of respect. It makes you more. You've lived. You've endured. You've adapted to a world that changed 100 times around you. You're not fragile. You're seasoned. You're wise. You have every right to explore new things, express your opinions, and be proud of who you are. And if someone constantly makes you feel small, that's not their honesty helping you, it's their insecurity hurting you. They're not trying to lift you up. They're trying to pull you down to their level of dissatisfaction. The best way to handle them? Start by separating truth from poison. If their words sting, ask yourself, is this actually helpful, or is this just hurtful? If it's the latter, walk away emotionally. You can listen, nod, and then toss their opinion in the trash where it belongs. Don't give their words the weight they don't deserve. One of the most powerful lessons we can embrace in our 60s, 70s, and beyond is this. Just because someone has been in your life a long time doesn't mean they've earned a permanent seat in it. Respect is not something you give out of habit. It's something people earn through kindness, consistency, and care. That brings me to someone you've probably run into if you've ever opened up to the wrong person, the victim. Now, I don't mean someone who's gone through hardship. We've all had our fair share of that. I'm talking about the person who lives in crisis. The one who always has a problem, always needs your help, but somehow never makes any real effort to change. At first, you feel sympathy. Of course you do. You have a big heart. You want to help. You offer advice, lend an ear, even rearrange your schedule to be there for them. But months or years go by and nothing changes. In fact, you start noticing that when things go right for you, when you share something joyful or a little win, they pull the conversation back to their own misery. That's because they don't want support. They want attention. And often, they use their struggles to keep you emotionally hooked. They drain your energy, your time, your spirit, until you start feeling guilty for simply enjoying your own life. But you are not obligated to carry anyone's emotional baggage, especially if they keep dragging it around instead of unpacking it. Your compassion is a gift, not a leash. And you can still care about someone while stepping back to protect your peace. Your job is not to fix people who refuse to help themselves. Your job is to honor the life you still have ahead of you, to fill it with light, laughter, and peace wherever you can. And that means creating distance from anyone who thrives on chaos, but never on growth. Let's keep going, because this next type, they can be so subtle, you might not realize how deeply they've affected you. Have you ever opened up to someone, shared something meaningful, maybe a little vulnerable, and watched as their eyes glazed over? Maybe they nodded politely, gave a vague "uh-huh," or looked away for a second too long. It's not that they were rude, exactly. They were just absent. These are the inattentive listeners. They show up physically, but mentally, they're somewhere else entirely. And over time, being around someone who never really hears you, it chips away at your spirit. You begin to wonder if your stories even matter. If your opinions, your memories, your voice is just background noise to them. Now, maybe you grew up in a time when people listened more deeply. Conversations over coffee lasted hours. Letters were written with care. But these days, even in face-to-face conversations, distraction is everywhere. And for some folks, listening has become a lost art. But don't let that make you invisible. Because here's the truth. You deserve to be heard. Fully. With interest, with care, with presence. Not just out of politeness, but out of respect. If someone consistently checks out when you speak, if they never ask follow-up questions, never remember what you shared last week, then they're not truly valuing you. And respect starts with attention. It's okay to say something like, "Hey, I'm sharing something important to me and I'd appreciate your focus." And if that doesn't change anything, it's okay to quietly shift your energy toward people who do listen. People who light up when you speak. People who make you feel seen, not tolerated. Because you're not here to fade out. You're here to be vibrant, wise, and present. And that means surrounding yourself with people who treat your presence as a gift, not an interruption. Speaking of presence, let's talk about a person who, ironically, is always very present, but only in their own little universe. You know the one. The self-centered, empathy-lacking individual. They talk endlessly about themselves, their health, their latest purchase, their opinions, their drama. But when it comes time to listen to you, suddenly they're busy, they forgot, or they offer some half-hearted comment before swinging the conversation back to themselves. These people don't just lack empathy, they lack curiosity about anyone but themselves. And that makes for a lopsided, draining connection. You give, they take. You support, they overlook. You ask how they're doing, yet they never ask how you're holding up. And after a while, it starts to feel lonely, even when you're not alone. Now here's where it gets tricky. Sometimes these folks are family, or people you've known for decades. You've shared history, holidays, heartaches. It's hard to just walk away. But you can set boundaries. You can decide, I'm not going to pour my heart out to someone who only sees their own reflection. You can choose to talk about lighter things, keep it surface level, and save your deeper conversations, the ones that matter, for people who reciprocate. Remember, empathy is not just about being kind. It's about being aware. And you deserve relationships with people who are aware of you, your struggles, your joys, your humanity. Now let's shift to another type who feeds on your reactions like it's their favorite meal, the constant irritator. This one might hit a nerve, because this person isn't openly cruel. They don't shout or slam doors. They're more subtle than that. A passive-aggressive comment here. A backhanded compliment there. They'll tease you for your hearing aid, then say, "Oh, come on, I'm just joking." They'll mock your choice of shoes, then act surprised when you don't laugh. They poke, and production, and smirk, and then act like you're the problem if you dare get upset. And let's be honest. For a while, maybe you laughed along. Maybe you didn't want to rock the boat. But deep down, it didn't feel good. And it doesn't feel good now. Here's what's important to remember. People who constantly try to provoke you do it for one reason. They crave control. They want to see if they can get under your skin. They want to feel powerful by making you feel small. And at this age, you've dealt with too many real struggles in life to waste a single breath on petty games. So how do you deal with someone like this? You stop giving them the reaction they're fishing for. You stay calm. You don't feed the fire. And when they say something annoying, you can simply smile and say, "That was unnecessary." Or, "Interesting anyway," and move on. And if they keep it up, you set a boundary. Kindly, firmly, clearly. You can say, "I'm not in the mood for teasing today." Or even better, "I enjoy being around people who lift others up." You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You just need to protect your peace, because your energy is sacred now. Your days are too precious to spend walking on eggshells around people who find joy in bothering you. And you have the full right to protect your joy, your dignity, and your sanity. Now let's talk about someone who doesn't try to rattle you, but ends up draining you all the same. This one's a slow leak. The kind that leaves you emotionally exhausted without even realizing it. The manipulator. This person doesn't wear the mask of conflict. They wear the mask of care. At first, they seem so tuned in. They remember details. They flatter you. They ask questions. But over time, you start to notice a strange pattern. Your stories get twisted. Your secrets get used. Your kindness gets leveraged. You start making decisions you're unsure about because they made you feel guilty. You start saying yes when you meant no because they've convinced you it's the right thing. You start questioning your own gut because they always seem to know better. Sound familiar? Manipulators are master chess players. They know exactly where to push, when to pull, and how to frame things to make you doubt your instincts. And by the time you realize you've been played, you're already emotionally tangled. But here's what you must remember. No one has the right to use your heart as a bargaining chip. If someone only reaches out when they need something, if their kindness comes with strings attached, if their concern always steers you in a direction that benefits them, step back. You're not selfish for setting limits. You're wise. And you're protecting the most important thing you have left, your freedom. Your emotional freedom to think clearly, decide confidently, and live peacefully. So, whether it's the charm of a manipulator or the sting of an irritator, the silence of the self-absorbed or the distraction of a half-listener, your job is to protect the peace you've earned. Because you've spent decades learning, growing, giving, and loving. And now is your time to live freely, surrounded by people who see you, hear you, and honor the person you are. Let's keep going. There's one more type of person we need to talk about. And I won't sugarcoat it. They are the most difficult to deal with because they're a cocktail of all the worst traits we've already discussed. They're the toxic individual. You've probably felt their presence before you even fully understood what was happening. Being around them feels like walking into a room with too little oxygen. You can't quite breathe. You start second-guessing yourself. You feel tense, guarded, emotionally drained. And yet they act like everything is fine, maybe even like they're doing you a favor by being in your life. This person might not insult you outright, but they carry an undercurrent of resentment, control, or judgment that infects every interaction. They know exactly how to darken your brightest moment, rain on your small wins, and make you feel like you're never quite enough. And if you're someone who's always tried to keep the peace, to be the bigger person, you may have tolerated far more than you should have. You see, toxic people don't always scream. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they sigh dramatically. Sometimes they simply ignore your boundaries until you're too tired to hold them up anymore. And because they often mix manipulation with moments of charm, you start to feel confused. Are they really that bad? Maybe I'm overreacting. Let me be clear. If someone makes you feel consistently small, unsettled, anxious, or unworthy, even without saying a single cruel word, they are not a safe person for your heart. It doesn't matter if they're a friend you've known for 30 years. It doesn't matter if they're family. It doesn't matter if they say they love you. If their presence costs you your peace, they are too expensive. And I know that walking away isn't always possible. Maybe they live under your roof. Maybe you see them at every family gathering. But here's what is possible. You can take back your emotional space. You can stop giving them the power to define how you feel. You can limit what you share with them. You can stop trying to please them. You can stop shrinking yourself to avoid setting them off. It takes courage. But let me remind you, there is no age limit on reclaiming your power. Sometimes we think, well, I'm too old to start cutting people out now. But I say the opposite. You're old enough to finally stop tolerating what drains you. You've carried enough weight for others. Now it's time to carry yourself, with grace, with strength, with peace. Because the years ahead of you matter. Every moment, every conversation, every breath. And when you fill those moments with people who love you, respect you, listen to you, support you, you thrive. You smile more. You sleep better. Your days feel lighter, freer, richer. And that, my dear friend, is what you deserve. You deserve friends who check in, not just when they need something, but because they want to know how you're doing. You deserve conversations that nourish your spirit, not drain it. You deserve family who sees your worth, not just your usefulness. You deserve to be around people who make you feel like you belong, not like you're just taking up space. And if that means letting go of a few toxic voices to hear your own voice again, then so be it. Because now, in this chapter of life, it's not about collecting more people. It's about protecting your peace. It's about choosing quality over quantity. It's about finally giving yourself the same loyalty, care, and kindness that you've spent your whole life giving to everyone else. And if no one has told you this lately, let me say it clearly. You are not too much. You are not a burden. You are not past your prime. You are still becoming, still growing, still worthy of new connections, better relationships, and deeper joy. So let the critics go. Let the manipulators fade. Let the chaos makers spin in their own storm without dragging you into it. You've earned the right to choose who stands beside you. And as you move forward, carry this with you. Trust is precious. Don't give it to anyone who plays with it. And respect? That's not a free gift. It's a response to how someone treats you. If they don't treat you with care, consistency, and sincerity, they don't deserve your respect. Period. Now, I hope this message gives you not just clarity, but courage. Courage to choose peace, to choose authenticity, to choose you. And if any of this resonated, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you had to distance yourself from someone like this? What helped you take that step? Or what are you still struggling with? Your experience might help someone else who's been quietly dealing with the same thing. If this video spoke to your heart, please give it a like. It helps more people like you find their way here. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a new video from Strong Elderly Life. Because we're building a community of wisdom, healing, and strength. You've got so much life left to live. And from this point forward, you get to decide who's coming with you and who's not. Here's to living with clarity, with courage, and with a heart protected by hard-earned wisdom. Stay kind, stay strong, stay serene. Until next time.